Tony Soprano never recruited Furio Giunta. He went to Naples looking for cars and connections, sat in rooms with people who barely tolerated him, and came home with a man. Annalisa handed Furio over the way you'd throw in a spare part to close a deal. Nobody asked Furio if he wanted to move to New Jersey. As far as we ever see, nobody asked him anything. And then for the next 3 years, he's the most reliable person in the entire organization. He collects. He beats people. He does it in a suit, without shouting, without a story afterward. He doesn't skim. He doesn't get high. He doesn't sit at the table complaining that his end is short. When somebody needs to be hurt badly enough that the message travels, Furio goes and does it, and then goes home, and nobody in that crew ever has to hear about how hard it was for him. In that world, that's close to sainthood. What makes it strange is that he thinks they're ridiculous. You can hear it whenever the subject of Italy comes up. The Columbus Day fuss baffles him. A bunch of men who have never seen Naples getting emotional about a Genoese sailor. Their food, their swagger, their sentimentality about a country they've mostly seen in photographs. Furio is polite about it in the way you're polite about someone's ugly baby. He works for men he privately regards as an imitation, so he's not there out of admiration. He's not there for the money either. Not obviously. He lives quietly while everyone around him is choking on his own appetite. He's just there, doing it, perfectly. The job that changes everything is the least violent one he has. Furio drives Tony. That means Furio is in the car when Tony makes the calls he wouldn't make at home. He's at the curb outside the apartments. He's in the driveway when Tony comes out at hours that don't need explaining. He sits in the kitchen with a coffee while the marriage happens around him. He knows more about the Soprano household than Melfi does, and he's never once asked a question about it. Carmela starts checking the window when he's due. She fixes her hair on the way to the door. It's tiny, and the show is careful to keep it tiny for a long time. A woman being noticed by a man who is unfailingly courteous to her in a house where courtesy has become an antique. Around this time, Furio buys a house of his own, not a rental. A house with work to be done on it, and Carmela ends up helping. Colors, fixtures, the kind of decisions you only make when you intend to be somewhere for 20 years. Hold on to the house. His father dies, and he goes back to Naples to bury him. He returns different, quieter, if that's even possible, and something in him has come loose. Grief does that. But grief usually makes people cling to whatever they have left. Furio comes back and starts looking at what he has left like a man doing arithmetic. Then there's the tarmac. They've landed. Tony is drunk, properly drunk. The loud kind. And he's wandering around near a small plane with its propeller turning. He's weaving. He isn't paying attention to anything, because Tony has never in his life had to pay attention to anything with Furio standing next to him. Furio is standing behind him. The camera holds. The cape's turning. All it would take is a hand between the shoulder blades and a very short push, and the most powerful man Furio has ever worked for becomes an accident. Drunk boss. Running engine, nobody's fault. Furio would go home a hero of his own life. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it, and then he drives Tony home, and then he shows up for work the next day, and the day after that, and he never mentions it to anyone. There's no scene where he confesses. There's no scene where he even looks like a man carrying something. That restraint is the thing everyone points to when they call Furio the honorable one. He isn't, particularly. The same man who finds American mobsters vulgar is breaking a stranger's face over a debt on a Tuesday afternoon. The same man who is quietly appalled by Tony's women is falling in love with Tony's wife and letting her fall back. He judges Tony for treating the marriage like a coat he can leave at a restaurant, and his plan, as far as he has one, is to take the coat. He's not better than them. He's cleaner than them. Those aren't the same thing. And the show never confuses the two, even when the audience does. What he has that they don't is a set of rules he actually obeys when they cost him something, which is worth noticing because everyone in this story has rules. Look at what loyalty means to Tony. Tony thinks of it as a debt. He gave you a living, so you owe him, forever, at an interest rate he sets. He is genuinely wounded when people fail him and genuinely incapable of noticing that he fails them constantly. He can sleep with a friend's girlfriend, take a piece of a dying man's business, and still believe with his whole chest that he is surrounded by ingrates. and the men around him have adapted to it. Paulie will sit down with a rival boss and sell Tony's private business over a plate of food, and then come back and be Tony's most sentimental soldier, and he'll do this for years. Pussy wore a wire. Christopher will love him and rob him in the same week. Loyalty in this crew mostly means nobody has been caught yet. Now come back to Furio standing behind a drunk man at a propeller. He isn't loyal to Tony. He can't be. He despises him, wants his wife, and had the man's death in his hands and let it go. Whatever stopped him wasn't affection. It's that some things are simply not done. You don't kill the man you work for. You don't take his wife. These aren't opinions Furio holds. They're closer to the shape of him. He was raised inside them and handed to America still wearing them. Which is fine, right up until both of them apply at once. The housewarming is the beautiful scene and the fatal one. His new house, full of people, Neapolitan music, and Carmela dancing with him in front of everyone. Tony is in the building. Nothing happens that you could describe to a jury. That's what makes it unbearable. The entire room is watching a thing that hasn't technically occurred yet, and the two people in the middle of it are the last to admit it. After that, there's no version of Furio's life that works. If he takes her, he's dead, and so is she, probably. If he kills Tony to have her, he becomes exactly the kind of man he spent 3 years silently sneering at. If he stays and does nothing, he spends the rest of his life driving that car, standing in that kitchen, watching her, waiting at the curb outside somebody else's apartment. 3 impossible doors. He finds a 4th. He goes, no note, no goodbye. Nothing to Carmela, who drives to the house and finds it empty. The house she picked things out for, finished and lit and containing nobody. He walked away from everything he'd built in America in the time it takes to pack a bag. Tony's reaction is the most Tony thing in the series. He isn't grieving. He's insulted. A soldier left without permission, which is a breach of protocol, which means a phone call to Naples and a contract. And the word comes back that Furio has gone into the hills, into the part of Italy where nobody finds anybody, and that's the end of it. Tony has no idea why he left. He spends months not knowing. He finds out in the middle of the worst fight of his marriage, when Carmela, done finally, all the way done, says the name out loud. She's been dreaming about Furio. She's been in love with him. Tony's whole marriage detonates over a man who, as far as we ever know, never laid a hand on her. So did leaving make him loyal? Separate the pieces. What he wanted was Carmela. What he could have done was kill Tony, and he'd already proven to himself on the tarmac that he wouldn't. What he chose was to remove himself from the equation entirely. And what actually happened was that his absence did more damage to the Sopranos' marriage than the affair would have. An affair Carmela could have hidden. She's had practice hiding worse. What she couldn't survive was the clean version. A good man who wanted her, behaved himself, and vanished, leaving her alone in a house with a husband she now had a measurement for. Furio didn't ruin anything by touching her. He ruined it by being decent and then gone. He left to keep the rules intact, and the rules broke anyway. Somewhere behind him, in a bedroom he never entered. There's a temptation to give him a medal for this. The one man in the whole show with a code, who paid for it, who walked away from money and revenge and love, because some things are simply not done. But go back to the room in Naples. Furio never chose any of it. He didn't choose Tony. Didn't choose New Jersey, didn't choose the work. He was transferred, like a car or a favor, by people who discussed him in front of him. Everything we've been calling loyalty. 3 years of flawless, uncomplaining, brutal service to a man he had contempt for, might just be what obedience looks like when nobody has ever offered you an alternative. He was so good at it that we mistook it for a decision. And then one arrived. For about a month, Furio Giunta had real choices in front of him for the first time in his adult life. A woman, a dead boss, a house with his name on the deed. 3 ways to finally want something out loud. He took none of them. That's the part that stays with me. Not the propeller, not the dance. The man was given away once, in a room he wasn't consulted in, and the only free decision he ever made was to take himself back and give himself to nobody at all.